Hello there and welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about the first true bombers that bombed the UK. Now in the First World War there was an initial couple of bomb strikes by the Taube aircraft, which I did a review on just a week ago, where they would just have these little tiny flechette bombs they would throw over the side, and they I think they hit Dover and caused very minimal damage, frightened a few locals of course, back in 1914. But then in 1915 and 16 the Germans decided that the best way to hit the British mainland was using their dirigibles or Zeppelins, and they were very effective machines. The Zeppelin, it was very slow, which was obviously a slight negative, but that meant that when these aircraft were getting overhead, it was actually quite easy for them to aim their bombs and be relatively effective in where they hit. Problem was, of course, they couldn't really carry a very big payload, and they were causing quite a lot of problems, and it was almost like a miniature blitz. People would become very frightened in London when they would see these, because they were absolutely huge. I mean, these were massive things in the sky, you couldn't miss them. And of course they had a great sort of terror effect on the population, much outweighing its real bombing impact at all. But they were very frightening to see them, you know, hovering right low over the capital and dropping bombs on people. And the RAF, the Royal Flying Corps I should say, or the Royal Naval Air Service on the coast, they would go up with their fighters. They had a lot of problems because initially they would hit these things, you couldn't miss them. But they were filled with millions of litres of hydrogen, and whilst that is one of the most explosive gases known to man, the bullets would just pass through out the other side, because it's very thin, you know, fabric type skin, and it wasn't having really any impact. So they would be riddling these things with machine gun bullets, and then they just couldn't stop them. They just had no effect at all, until in the summer of 1916, some British scientists at the Royal Research Establishment decided that the way to do this was to have munitions that were incendiary and explosive. And oh my God, as soon as they came out with these glowing red hot incendiary bullets, as soon as they were fired, they were literally kind of on fire. They were like magnesium, I think it was a magnesium compound, and they would glow, you could see them. Of course these became known as tracer bullets, and they were fired from the Royal Flying Corps, Royal Naval Air Service fighters, and as soon as they started shooting these new types of bullets at the Zeppelins, they would just explode in the most enormous conflagration and become a terrifying sight, just vaporising them, you know, in a massive fireball. Very few of the Germans who were on board as the crew of these things ever survived. One or two maybe jumped off with a parachute, but they didn't have much chance because it went up so fast. And this virtually ended the menace of the Zeppelin threat in 1916. So, moving on. Everybody in London thought that that was the end of this sort of terror campaign, and this idea of enemy aircraft being above their capital city, which was completely unheard of and unprecedented in history. Until the summer of, slightly early, but the main impact was the summer of 1917 in June, and there was a raid performed by Germany's Gotha bombers. Gotha bombers is the correct pronunciation. Get that one right. Now these were a big heavy bomber, 3,500 kilos, about 8,000 pounds in weight, a big hefty machine. Twin Daimler-Benz engines kicking out about 230 brake horsepower each, so a big powerful thing, and not that heavy for its big size, big plane. Look at it, it's absolutely enormous, you know. I mean, this is not much smaller than Lancaster bomber, and only weighing, you know, what, 3.5 tons, and it was full of bombs. It had a gunner at the back, a gunner at the front, two in the middle. So, and it had great range. It had 500-mile range, so it could cruise, and they used to fly them over from Belgium. Now the Germans were very dastardly. They formed a special squadron specifically to target London, the Englischer Geschwader, and they were going to attack England. That was their single primary aim, and they were led by a guy called Ernst Brandenburg. Hauptmann, captain, Ernst Brandenburg, and he was a real wily character and very, very skillful at navigation, especially. Anyway, so by the time they got to the middle of June, I think it was Wednesday the 13th of June, they did a raid with these planes where there was about, I think 13 or 14 of them came over together, and they sort of went, they didn't go straight for London, they went along the coast and then up from East Sussex up towards London, and then did a right turn when they saw Regent's Park, and then they came in over the centre of the city of London and bombed an area of about 3-4 square miles around Liverpool Street Station, and they were dropping these massive bombs. I mean, they were dropping, these are the first time big bombs have ever been carried, and they were causing absolute havoc. It was a blitz. It was the first blitz on London, Wednesday 13th of June 1917, and they levelled an area quite close to Liverpool Street Station. Unfortunately, in terms of the sort of PR element of it, one of the targets that they hit unintentionally was a children's school, primary school, and one of these massive bombs went through 3 floors and then detonated on the basement floor, which is where the infants class was, instantly killing 18 youngsters that were no more than 4 or 5 years old. Absolutely terrible, and this caused absolute panic in the UK, especially London, and outrage as well. There was a lot of anger. The Royal Flying Corps and the Royal Naval Air Service came in for a real barrage in the press, saying, you know, you didn't protect the capital, the people have been absolutely murdered, some of them murdered, you know, having lunch. It was an early afternoon raid, I think it was, and it was horrific. The sort of fear and terror impact was way beyond the real damage that was done, but they killed a lot of people in this one raid. It was 162 people died in this one raid in one afternoon. So clearly they were on target, and it was horrendous. It was so bad that King George V was so upset. This is when they changed the name of the royal family from Saxe-Coburg und Gotha, the name of the baby bomber plane. They changed the name to Family Windsor, and of course it's remained the royal family's surname ever since. But it gives you an idea about the sense of shock and outrage, and especially when they had these funerals where there was all these children's coffins, you know, absolutely awful. And it really sort of stoked up some anger and some desire for revenge. But these bombers were very effective. Anyway, that's a bit of the history. Sadly, at the end of the First World War, obviously Germany lost after the armistice, but there's not a single example of a Gotha bomber anywhere in the world. They were all destroyed, which is a real shame. There's a mock-up though in Manston Airfield in Kent, but it's just like a reconstruction with a couple, I think they got a couple of real engines and they sort of mocked it up to look like one, you know, but that's it. You can't actually see one anyway, which is very sad. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Wingnut wings version of the model. We're also going to talk about what's happening with Wingnut wings models generally, and the prices and values, which is a story in itself. I could almost make a separate video, but we'll keep to this. Let's have a look at the model. Now, there's a problem with this. This, despite not being the sort of huge dimensions of the previous one that I did the review on, it's a big box, but it's not huge. But it is just one plane, so it is quite big. But this is, and again we'll talk more about the market for them later. This particular one is, there was a model like this sold last week, identical to this, and it sold for £777. I think everybody that saw this was just absolutely blown away, unbelievable, because they were retailing for around about the £200 mark, 210, 220 I think, when they came out. Now these are one of the very early Wingnut Wings kits, and it's been sold out for years. So it's an early one, and is consequently very, very desirable. And with that in mind, we have to handle it with great care. In fact, I've got a cup of coffee here, which I'm keeping well away from the kit, for fear of anything that should not come into contact with it getting near it. So we'll be very, very careful. Anyway, let's have a look inside the box. Oh, we'll give you a little spin on the side. Well, it basically tells you the story I've just told you already, and it shows a few various different schemes you can have there, where we've got a strange sort of colour scheme. They're mainly white. I'm not sure what made them think that was a great scheme, but maybe that they were deliberately coming over when it was quite cloudy and made them hard to see. But later I noticed in November 17 they go to a more of a military grey style. This end. I'll just zoom you into these. Yeah, they go to a much more conventional sort of style there of colour from this really weird white. You'll also note here that we've got this sort of interesting markings here. We have Kreuzjag, a swastika, an early swastika, which is very interesting because this is long before the Nazis came to power, of course, and aircraft were not carrying those markings generally at all. So that's a very interesting point, and I'm sure there's another story in there somewhere, but yeah, we'll come to that some other time, I think. So, let's have a look what we got. Now this is going to be a beauty, so stand by. Now, problem with this one, because it's one of the early issues, they put the instructions and they've shrink wrapped it in these lovely bags. So given what I've just said about this identical model was sold last week, not this particular one, but an identical one too, it was sold for 777 quid. We're not going to be opening this or any other bag come to that, so I have a way around this. We've got a copy of the Wingnut Wings instructions which we're going to go through in a minute. In fact, I think we'll just jump over to that now and just flick through it online. And it gives you the history of the plane and gives you the dimensions, talks about all of the data I mentioned about the weight, etc., and the range. Maximum ceiling 16,400 feet. So you know it cruised across. They were based near Dunkirk, I think, when they made these raids against London. So it was quite a capable aeroplane, and it was much more cheap to produce than a Zeppelin was, and a lot safer as well. And had a fair chance of fighting its way out as well, of course. And they were actually much quicker to produce than a Zeppelin as well, because this was the first aircraft that was plywood. It wasn't fabric, it was plywood coated across a structured frame, so it was quite a conventional, as it became later, quite a conventional design. Anyway, let's have a look at the instructions. Apple want me to update something which we're not going to do. Now then, here we go. So, I'm going to have to zoom you in to make sense of this for you. I'll make it a quick zoom, I think. Right. So I've got the basic instructions, as I mentioned. The biggest enemy I'm going to have here is going to be the light, I can tell. So we get the blurb that you just seen, the basic cover, so we won't dwell on that one, but let's get into the actual meaty nitty gritty. It shows here all the sprue tree, and it's got some massive wings again. In this case, a really big monster of a plane. We have got the first page, so here we go. This is the first stage of construction. We start off with these little internal bomb racks for these little bombs, and it's the Prüfungsanstalt und Wirt PUW bomb racks. Now I thought this meant something meaningful in German, and it's not words I recognise. Turns out it's not very meaningful, it's just the name of their research and development department, so not really very relevant, but very interesting the way that you can see this, the way these little racks are built into the side of the aircraft and the integration of the design. It's quite good. And then you've got these Parabellum machine gun drum storage lockers, which is very cleverly done as well for the machine guns. And you got your seat, which looks very comfy and like a proper seat, doesn't it? Looks like an office chair. There we got second page, so we got, I see this is going to be fun, isn't it? Right, so we've got the interior continued, so now we've got the commanders and the rear gunners folding seats. Again, very clever, reminds you of an airline, doesn't it? Folding seats. Everything's very cleverly packaged in these aircraft. There's no sort of wasted, you know, outdated looking furniture. It's all folding away and storage bins at the side. Very clever. Internal rigging, well, that's always fun. And then these oxygen supply tanks where they have oxygen once you get above about 8,000 feet becomes essential. So that's that page. Then we've got it in colour here, how it should look in terms of the final appearance. So you can see the bombs either side of the main central fuselage, and then you've got forward area for the gunner, where the gunner's going to sit, and then it shows the finish that you should achieve with beautiful wooden finish there. Looks great. Okay. Then, oh, I seem to have gone back a page. It's jumping around on me here. It's going to be fun, this is, I can tell. Yeah, here we go. So a bit now it shows that actually being put into the fuselage sides and the pilot's control wheel, etc. And there's some shots of the actual production facility of the actual the factory, LVG factory. There was actually 3 factories using used to make the Gotha bomber: LVG and Gotha and Siemens. They were all involved in the production of this aircraft. So it's a real collaboration of German industry. Then we've got, and I love this, I've got to say I really like this. So this is the Parabellum machine guns, LMG 14s, and they have these rotary drums with the ammunition in, as you can see. And it's almost like a Gatling gun. I mean, it's just a wicked looking weapon, this. Massive, aren't they? Absolutely amazing. And it's got the sights on it, and yeah, quite a wicked and formidable weapon to be shooting back at Allied fighters with. So where are we at now? Okay, instrumentation here, got the instrument panels going in, and little mirrors for the pilot. Just a photograph of one on its wheels here, and they're saying a bit of overpainting may have gone on in this photograph, saying it's a bit of a darker yellow, they think, than is actually normal. That's that one. Then what they call the gun tunnel. Now this is very interesting sort of parlance they're using here, the gun tunnel. So they've got the rear gunner, and it says here, oh, there's one here that crashed. It says it nosed over while landing is enabling us to see some cockpit details like the fuel control valves and the engine tachometers. The aircraft also has number stencil on the front cabane strut and the dark red band around the braces. Fuel gauges are visible, etc. And the commander's collapsed gun ring. Okay. And another shot of the internals of the fuselage, and shows you basically how it's going to go together. I zoomed in a little bit too much here. There we go. How's that? There's a Gotha being wheeled out of the hangar at the bottom. And then, starting on the Daimler, well, that's a 230 horsepower, 260 horsepower. It's quite a powerful engine, isn't it? This inline 8-cylinder engine. And we've seen that on the previous models actually, so it's becoming quite a familiar sight in these reviews I've done. Very nice, beautifully detailed, faultless. Some more photos, here we go. So Gotha at the LVG factory. Note the hatch on the side of the fuselage to access instruments and gauges and the pilot's console. The port engine nacelle, lower front cowling, which is difficult to see through the inner hatch. Yeah, some great detail there, you can see these guys working away on it. Typical German engineering at work, and there's one that's had a bit of an unfortunate arrival here. Paderborn in Germany, 19th September 17. Crash landed. Able to see the underside and this very meaty undercarriage that it has. Okay, more photos. Just turn you this way now. Except the iPad won't let you do that, will it? Ah. Okay, anyway, we'll have to do it a bit on the side. There we go. This is typical. iPads drive you crazy, don't they? Anyway, so I'll just have to paraphrase it for you and say that there's a couple that's crashed, and I'm just pointing out some of the details about the struts and how you can see the detail of when they've been disintegrated. You can see some of the construction. I'll teach them to put it like that, won't it? Oh yes, here we go. And then we've got engine nacelles to support the engines, obviously. Yeah, they're quite meaty. It's like a single unit really, with twin nacelles in it. That's the way that they've constructed this. So that's quite an interesting solution, really. So that's that. We're jumping across now to what they look like when the engines are in, and you can see with the radiator on in the front of the Daimler Benz there. Excellent. Oh yeah, some subtle differences in the panel work, whether it's an LVG built engine or a Gotha built engine. There's a slightly different finish. And is it the venting in the panel? Yeah. The LVG one's got a little bit more venting on the left. Interesting. Where are we at? Here we are. Tailplane. It's quite a big construction tailplane with one of these typical German, sort of like a ship's like rudder, but it is above this time, not below, like the Brandenburg. And then we've got the undercarriage. This is a meaty old undercarriage it has on this aircraft. So there we go. Oh no, go back to the tailplane. What's going on? Yes, I knew this was going to be difficult doing this on here, but at least we kind of get to see it now. Here we go, that's better. Undercarriage, there we go. There's some real shots of the actual aircraft. One with a punch by the look of it. Then you've got the construction where you've got these propeller guards to protect the gunner. So they have these, in case a propeller goes awry and flies off or gets shattered in battle, they have these propeller guards that protect either side like a mesh guard. Very interesting. You can see the photo there. How it fits, protecting the gunner and getting his head taken off by a propeller. Always good. Commander's pulpit, they call it. Wow, pulpit like a reverend in church. Okay. And there's the swinging ring for the gun. For the gunner to swing around on. Bomb racks and bombs. Now then, bomb racks. It was a mightily well equipped machine, this. I mean, these bombs it was carrying, I wouldn't want them falling on my house. They were serious bombs, like World War II almost, you know. There we go. And it shows the actual options for the different bomb loadouts here. That's really good, isn't it? Yeah, you see the man stood at the side of his bombs Shows how big they are. 6 foot, 7 foot tall, aren't they, the bomb? Then we get to the cable rigging. Oh, yes, here we go. I can't turn it the other way because it will just flip if I do that, so I'll have to be happy with that. And then we've got some close-up shots of the front of the pulpit. You can see the Parabellum machine gun sticking out there, and the little windows at the side of the fuselage. Again, it looks quite advanced for 1917 with these windows. It's quite a thing. Lower wings, it shows how the wings are going to go on here. And it always reminds you that if you get the dihedral correct, then you will have no problems with the fit. If you try and raise them up too much, it won't work. You've got to get the dihedral right for it to support the weight of the wing, to give the right strength to the strut, obviously, just like the real thing, you know. And then we've got the ailerons of propellers. Now, of course, you've got to remember this is these Daimlers are being used as in a pusher format, so they're pushing back, which means that you've got radiator at the front and pusher propeller at the back. And more rigging again. Some close-ups of the rigging here to help with getting it right. Understand another crash, but look at it. In fact, I snapped in two that one, it's flipped round. And now we've got coming up to the paint scheme near the end now, so here's one of the paint schemes, this very white scheme I mentioned. Not sure about the white at all. I think against the blue sky you'd be in real trouble with that one. And one here that's had, oops, come back again, why did I do that? One here that's had a bit of an accident, the one in white, bit of a shunt. In fact, that was completely written off actually. Yeah. And this is the one I mentioned that's got these swastikas on it. 40. See what it says? It's the England Geschwader, the people I mentioned earlier. Ernst Brandenburg, this is him. Oh, okay. It looks like he might have been a Nazi. A bit early for that, but yes. Blood red. He had a blood red identification. The fuselage swastika marking was a universal good luck symbol used by all sides during the First World War. Well, I never knew that. Okay, you learn something every day, don't you? There's Ernst Brandenburg that I mentioned earlier. This dastardly, devilish pilot who he was actually given the Blue Max for the success of this raid I've talked about in June. The Kaiser, I think, actually presented it to him himself. So there you go. He did his job, even though it was a bit murderous. Now then. Another one. Now here's the one I mentioned that's got the option of the darker grey. The light one at the top. And then this more sort of interwar stroke World War II style of marking, which looks a lot more menacing, I have to say. And this is a shot of it on the top and bottom. And then there's one that's had a little bit of a shunt. There seems to be a lot of crashing, I've got to say. He's gone into a farm, by the look of it. Struck a Belgian farmhouse on the 11th of November 1917. Wiping it out. Well, as you can see, that is a bit of a mess. Okay. And then we just really got some more various photos. I just can't believe how many photos there are of crash coasters. I think it was quite a tricky one to fly, or either that or the Allied fighters were getting the better of them, because at the bottom you can clearly see there's a mangled wreck of very little left, that particular one. But they were very successful aircraft, and they ran for, you know, they were running them for three years? 3 years, I think it was. So that's the instructions, so we're going to shut that now because that's a bit of a nightmare to try and look through. But let us get back to the bit we all wanted to see, which is the kit, isn't it, really? Sorry about that, it's just that we can't open the instructions, so we have to find alternative ways. And if I'd have printed that off, it would have cost me about £18 in ink. So we'll put the nice instructions on the side, and we'll get stuck straight into we'll get stuck straight into the review. Yes, I couldn't do that last week when I was doing the review of the Felix Stowe, because I had my cat sitting behind me and she wouldn't budge. In fact, she was purring and cleaning herself in the middle of that video, and this is very cool. Right, Gotha, here we go. What have we got? First of all, Sprue L. This is a nice one. So we have here the bombs. Let's get you in nice and close so you can see this. Look at that. So as you can see, there's quite a variety of these bombs, and it's worth noting as well that if I can get you close enough to see the detail, if you look very, very closely here, look at the fins on these bombs. Can you see it's got a twist? It's got a twist here. And here. If we can look across at this one. You see? There is a twist in the fins. And it's on both sides. If you look closely, you should be able to pick out that twist. He says, the reflections are making it a bit of a nightmare, aren't they? This is easier said than done. There we go. Now the idea here, of course, is that this twist is to make the bomb spin when it's just dropped by hand. It's quite a severe twist as well. I've got to say that that's quite surprising, I thought. It's not something I've seen on a lot of others. Certainly in World War II they were much more subtle than that, but these really designed to spin the bomb very, very sort of aggressively. But they're beautifully formed. We've got the wheels here as well, which you can just about make out there. They're very, very nice. And you've got a whole load of bombs and parts of the bomb racks. You can see the sheer variety of size of bomb. It's quite a mixture. Anyway, that's one sprue. There's actually two of those. I lied, there's three. Right? 1, 2, 3, any more? Four! Four of the same sprue. Yeah, that makes it simple. Then we have got, which we've got Sprue B. This is the Gotha G.IV tail. Oh, look at that. Oh yes, this is impressive. Let's come back a bit for you for this one. So we have the tail section. We've got the in fact, that's, sorry, I'm wrong, that's the centre section of the wing here. This is the tail here, and then you've got part of the tail, and you've got this beautiful fabric sort of style with the ribs in it again that we saw on the Felix Stowe and the Stahltaub recently as well, and the Brandenburg. Beautiful, very nice. Then we've got two identical sprues, which are Sprue E, and this is the, it says here, interesting, it says it's the Mercedes engine Mark IV. D Mark 4A. So normally it says Daimler Mercedes, but it's Mercedes. And then we've got some really nice detailing here. Look at that. Whoops! Look at this. We've got some astounding detail on the sump there. You've got the cylinders, cylinder head, effectively, on the top of the block here. Top of the block. You've got the cylinders themselves. And then, that's a monster sprue here, sprue J. I'm going to zoom right out of this one. So that's the wings. That is the top wing, in fact. And it's a very beautiful rendition. Actually, you can capture this over the camera. But look at the curvature here. Absolutely amazing curvature, shaping of the actual wing itself. Very, very nice. All beautiful ribbing. And I say, this was the wings are a ribbed canvas and ribbed construction, but the fuselage is plywood, ribbing with plywood, so it's quite an advanced system. Here's the this is the lower wing. You can tell because the struts are on the top. That's nice. And again, you've got this sort of stressed in the ribs, where the ribs are, you've got the stressed effect, like where the canvas is kind of bonded. Beautiful. And then we have the almighty, I'll go back a bit more for this, the almighty fuselage. Look at that. So here's your top front where your ring goes for the pulpit, as they call it, for the front gunner. See that? I know it's tricky to see in these bags, but looking at kits that are worth £700, we've got to be a little bit careful. Now then, we've got the, what do they call it? What do they call it? The gun bay, the gun deck? The central section, just behind where the gunner sits. Then you've got parts of the outer ailerons here, and here, and the sort of floor to the main deck here, where the crew sit. And then we've got starting to get into really a lot of the ancillary parts. Now there's a couple of parts here that I must comment on, which I noted when I was looking at the instructions, one or two photographs. It's got these, I mentioned about these propeller guards, and here they, try to find where I am, here we go, here they are, here, here, and it has mesh. I think it's got some mesh that comes with the kit. And this is to stop the propeller flying in and taking the head off the gunner, which is, well, it's always a good thing, isn't it, really? It's quite a clever idea, you know, forward thinking, typical German engineering. And then we've got various struts, and we've got the sides of the cockpit here, all this bit here, and like a pump there, looks like a pump, like a bicycle pump almost, might be for pressurising the fuel or the oil or something. And the seat's quite nice, isn't it? Here and here. And then we've got a clear part sprue with these couple of little visors for the pilot and the gunner. They look really clear, I've got to say. And again, they've got like, oh, it's got the side windows as well, which I missed there. Side windows here and here. It's great that it's got proper windows to look out of. Excellent. And then we have this sprue that we saw in the other kit. This is the infamous Parabellum Sprue with all the guns on it. Beautiful Parabellums. It actually says Parabellum, and then they're all mounted upside down, it seems, on the sprue. Let's try that way up. There's the top. There's the gun belts and the drums. Absolutely brilliant. Then we've got various parts, the front and sides of the cockpit area, and beautiful propeller here, which is a real beauty. I've got to say, that's very nicely formed. It looks excellent, very, very lifelike. Then you've got various parts of the side framing, and you've also got radiator there for the engine, for the Daimler engine here. That. Get the camera to focus, that would be really cool. A bit too close, my fault. There we go. Radiator. And I'm guessing that there's two of these sprues. Yes, there's two identical sprues, the same. So that's sprue D, of which there are two. And then, finally, we have Decals Sheet. And it is a mighty, mighty Decals Sheet indeed. And as I promised you, just a moment or two ago, oops, where are we? I'll find it, there we go. There we are, there's the propeller guards that I mentioned, that is the mesh. Same shape as the frame, you'll notice, around the outside. But that is to protect the crew from stray propellers, bits of propellers flying off if they get hit in combat, so it doesn't take their heads off, because the propellers are in close proximity with the crew, because they're quite far back. You've also got here the ring. There's the ring that goes around the pulpit for the gunner, and there's also some belts and one or two little bits of instrumentation, I think that is. On the side we've also got another Parabellum. So there are actually there's two. Too close. Hang on. Two lots of Parabellums. There we go. Pop those back in there, and I will pop it all back very gently. I mean, I've got to say, oh, there's a little bit of detail I missed here. Hang on a minute, let's just have a look at that. Look at the detail in these. And then these struts, look. Isn't that beautiful? Do you know what that, it actually reminds me of? It reminds me of the wishbones off a Formula 1 car, those struts do. It's very, very similar in sort of style, shape and design, really. Obviously not materials, but so beautifully crafted in the moulding process. Absolutely amazing. Now, I am going to ask you to indulge me for a second. I'll just pop this back very, very gently. Because I know it's not the ideal review when you've got to look at a screen, which is hard to see, because, you know, we've got instructions that we don't want to open. Very understandably, I wouldn't want them opened either. Somebody was reviewing one of mine. And I'm going to explain all why in a moment, so it will become much clearer how important that was. I'm not doing a great job of putting this back, I've got to be honest. No, that's not too bad. So, the beautiful instructions, which are like the lost ark, never to be seen by man. Put those away and pop the top back on to what really is another masterpiece. Well, that was never in doubt, really, was it? A masterpiece. Let's see if we can get this into the shot nicely. Now then, I did at the start. Right, now let's get to the nitty-gritty. I want to cut to the chase here, and I'm almost frightened to speak, because it does seem that since I made my last two videos, prices of these things seem to almost react. I'm probably over exaggerating the importance of what I said, but it's not just what I've said. There's lots of people commenting on this at the moment, and the prices of these kits are going even crazier than I predicted. So last week we had the Felixstowe Duelist kit with the Brandenburg, And I quoted, I had one there, mint condition, and I said, you know, this is probably could be worth £500 on the market, and if you put it on the market, I think you'd sell it. Well, I think I'd actually seen one, this is a week ago today, I'd actually seen one on the market in Germany, the same set, the dualist set, and it was for sale at £226 plus shipping. I think I told somebody it didn't include, there was no shipping, but there was, I think it was about £20. It was 226, and I hesitated, and I thought, maybe I should buy this, you know, but I don't need it. And then I thought, but surely it's worth more than 226. That's kind of the original recommended retail, if not cheaper. Probably about £20 cheaper. But anyway, this was in Germany on eBay. It was gone in about 2.5 hours. When I looked again, it was gone, which I said it would. Now, let me give you an idea of what's happening now. I'm just going to show you a couple of quite remarkable things. So first of all, I did a review of the Lano Hawker, the DH2. It's a really nice kit from Wingnut Wings. I bought mine for about £80, not far off list price. Now here we've got one, and this is in the last 24 hours, and there are more of these on the market right now. This has gone for £210. The Red Baron. Same thing, this time £231. And I paid, well I won't say what I paid a little bit above list, but only a bit, not too bad. Now that's nothing, you wait till you see this. This is going to get absolutely insane in a minute. So, the Gotha that we've just been reviewing. Here, this is what it went for last Tuesday, so you know I'm not pulling anybody's leg. £757 and £20 postage, okay? This is getting a bit crazy. This is becoming insane. It's almost unbelievable. You haven't seen the worst yet. There's more. There's more. There's more. There's more. So we've got a Felixstowe for sale at £250. There was today another very interesting development. We have one that is Brandenburg. Now there's one currently with bids on it at £180. Which is not unreasonable, a bit high, but not really high at all compared to today's prices. But this is the most incredible yet. So that same kit, the Brandenburg, last night we had one of these go at £867.77. How much? This is a kit that was about, yeah, £180, I think, £170 new, if that. And it's now, so it's appreciated basically by £600 to £700, £700 up. Now the Felixstowe and the Brandenburg twin set, the dualist set, I said was worth £500. There is now one, as of this moment, that's on the market on eBay as of this morning. Is on at £999. Bids opening at, and you can buy it now for £1,500. I mean, I give up really. This is really getting to the levels that even my predictions now look foolishly conservative, just nowhere near. And I wonder who on earth is going to spend £1.5 on a kit. I find that really odd, but I'm not knocking anybody. In fact, I was going to show you. I'm going to show you, just so that you know there's no exaggeration going on from me. Look at this. No bids yet. Buy it now at £1,500. Yeah, and that's the Felixstowe and Brandenburg dualist set that we saw last week. So, in summary, if you've got a load of these in your loft or your stash in your garage like me or whatever, you're sitting on an absolute fortune. And I wonder where this is going really. You know, it's almost like people have, I mean, the Brandenburg, you know, there's one currently for sale. I'm just going to mention this last one. There is one currently for sale today, just gone on the market. I think it's £260, did I say? Because that is 180. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Right. Now this is a reasonable price. £180. So this is the one I've just talked about seconds earlier that sold last night, that exact same kit. It's now 180, this particular one. Now last night that sold for £867. You couldn't make this up, it's beyond all reason and imagination. I mean, the market has gone absolutely into orbit. I hope it's not me that's doing this. I didn't suggest people pay thousands of pounds for a plastic kit, you know. I think it's got a bit stupid, but it's not for me to judge. I'm not, you know. That's market forces, I guess. But I can't afford that. I don't know about you. Anyway, I'm not sure it's a good way of. I mean, if you spend that sort of money and you put £900 down, who's to say you're ever going to get that back? It's speculation, and it's very dangerous, because a lot of people are going to say, "Hang on, no, it's a kit. It's worth £150. You know, I'm not going to pay 800 for it." And if people do that, then you've paid 800. You're in real trouble. Okay. But it's fascinating to watch. I've got to say, I'm actually quite addicted. So I've got 5, is it, or 6 Wingnut wings, and then mine are not the big ones. It's the, you know, the Sopwith Camel and the Sopwith Triplane and the Red Baron's Albatross, and what else we got? The mine's got completely blank now. Oh, Hermann Göring's Fokker and all that stuff. So these now are literally about treble what they were retailing for. They're now worth treble, and the bigger kits are worth much more. So just coming back to our review. So Tuesday night that sold identical, sold for £757 plus £20 postage. That, and this is one of the early ones, long sold out, not been available for 2 or 3 years at least. This has got to me now worth upwards of £900. easy. So this is why I'm keeping my coffee mug well away from it, you know, and anything else for that matter. And I'll be quite glad when the owner gets it back and I can not have to toss and turn at night in case there's any burglaries. Well, this is another thing as well. People that like the owner of this one, who's got some really desirable big ones, you've got enough of these and you're going to need to check your house insurance, because the value of them is not what you paid for them at all. You know, if you've got 10 of these, you've got £10,000 nearly. It's absolutely unbelievable. I've never seen anything so relatively attainable and you know, affordable for most people just go into the stratosphere like this. It's absolutely beyond reason, beyond imagination, and it's very nice if you've got one, you know. Maybe he won't get it back, and well, he will get it back, but you know, what would Peter Jackson say? Somebody said it's not Peter Jackson himself, is it, that's buying them back? Because it seems that whoever's buying all this stuff has got limitless resources, and maybe it's the precious. It's Gollum. Anyway, enough of me. Watch the market. I said this last time, but now this is become a spectator sport. Get yourself some popcorn. Watch the market, because it's only going up, and it's now going way beyond the predictions I made. I made predictions last week, and I felt they were right, but I think you might be being a bit optimistic and you can make a fool of yourself. No, they weren't optimistic, they were pessimistic. It's gone crazy. But it's great sport, it's great fun to watch and quite entertaining. And if you've got a few of them, it's like, oh, this is quite good fun, you know. So you can start planning your retirement to the Bahamas now. It's not a problem. Anyway, enough of my jesting. But do have a look on eBay and see what these things are changing hands for. If you've got one in your stash and it's sitting in a corner of your garage or the loft, you want to dust it off, put it somewhere safe, make sure it can't get damp, because these things are turning into a nest egg right now. I mean, what they'll be worth at Christmas, I dread to think. Demand seems to be going quite ridiculous. You know, it's almost like Rembrandt's. You can name your price, because there's not that many around, and if you've got a mint example like this, off you go. Anyway, enough of that. A little bit of unconventional review this time, because obviously I couldn't show you the instructions, but I hope you still enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me. if you enjoyed the video and you've seen my other vids, have a look at the ones, especially the Wingnut Wings ones, that are becoming more important by the day, aren't they? Hope I'm not inflating the market even more. But if you enjoy this kind of thing, please like, share and subscribe my vids, and thank you for joining me, and hopefully in the very near future we'll have some more coming up for you to enjoy very, very soon. In the meantime, thanks a lot, see you soon, goodbye.